I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. And tonight, the Emperor is back, and we'll be talking about the World Cup, the round of 32 bracket. Would you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Yes, thank you so very much for having me again. I am yours truly, the Emperor. Like I like to say, when I was born, they didn't know who I was, so they called me Richard Core. But I am yours truly, the Emperor. I am a football, fanatic. I am a licensed USSFB coach. I own my own soccer academy in New Jersey. I played collegiately, played semi-professionally. Invited to the National Under 17 team of Jamaica way back in 1991 as a 15-year-old. So I have an extensive background in this sport. I'm also a licensed referee.
Wonderful. And I tell you, I've been really looking forward to you coming back. So I have to ask you, what surprised you? We'll do a recap of the first round before we go into the third round of 32. So I
Mhm.
have to ask you, what surprised you in the first round?
Well, there were a few surprises for me. Most notably, the USA's performance in that first game, the first half performance against Paraguay. That was a surprising performance for me. I think most of the people who probably have not been, following the USA in their preseason games, but they were blistering. I mean, they had pace to burn. They were overloading on the left side to some good effect. Paraguay just could not have kept up with that at all.
Yeah.
And also for me, Cape Verde, their resolute defending against Spain in that first game, I think that took just about the whole footballing world by surprise. So for me, those two things right off the bat were two of the most surprising things in the first round.
Which teams have stood out to you?
Argentina looked very polished and refined. I mean, they used their second string team in that game last night against Jordan, and they just looked a frightening prospect. For me, France's strength in depth and quality that stood out. And as I said, Cape Verde, not just for that resolute defending that we talked about in that match against Spain, but they finished second in the group. Incredibly, that includes Uruguay, a two-time champion, as well as
Yes.
Saudi Arabia. So that for me is, one of the standout teams so far. I would say I'd also like to give honorable mention to Colombia. I
Okay.
think their football has been very attractive. They play this transition football, and Jurgen Klopp liked to refer to their style of football as heavy metal football. I think it was breathtaking to watch that Colombian team in the first round. So I'll give them some honorable mention there.
Okay. And which players have stood out and why?
Well, I will say that all the big name players they've lived up to reputation so far.
Okay.
So the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Mbappes, the Holland, Vinny Jr. All these guys, so far they've lived up to what we've come to expect from them. But for me, I think Frank Kessier,
Okay.
who plays in the Ivory Coast midfield, I think he's been very consistent, driving the team forward, breaking up the attacks of the other teams. And I think also this young, exciting winger that plays for the Ivory Coast team too, Yan Diamande, that everybody's talking about. He has the ability to play on both flanks, and he's been electric, causing a lot of problems to the opposing defenders. But I liked, for me, the most surprising player is the 18-year-old that plays in midfield for Morocco.
Okay.
Ayub Boadi, I think his name is. Right, this kid is 18 years old with a level of technical brilliance to just amaze you. He's got poise, he's got the full package. I mean, he's got teams like Arsenal, Real Madrid, Man City, Liverpool out chasing after him now. But I think his performances so far has been, one of the most outstanding for me in the first round.
Okay. And now let's talk about the disappointing moments. Have there been any disappointing moments in your eyes?
For me, and I'll take this off the field of play. For me, the most disappointing moments, has been, the way. I mean, this is the world's sport. This is the unification of the world through sport.
Yes.
And I think for me, the most disappointing thing is the way Iran's been treated throughout this tournament,
I
even before
understand.
the tournament
Yes.
started. The way the Senegal team was treated, being stopped on the tarmac and searched like they're common criminals. I mean, the way they treated Thomas Partey, not even letting him into Canada to play, a game, and he's not even a criminal. He's been accused of a crime. When you look at what happened to Amar Arton, the referee from um, from Somalia, was not
Yes.
even allowed into the country to participate in an event that he's worked so hard to put himself in a position to participate in. Those for me are the disappointing moments, and they didn't really enter the field of play. But those moments when you think about the spectacle that the World Cup is, to have these events permeating the event any at all, for me are the most disappointing moments so far.
No, I can definitely understand. I think these moments can become distractions, and I think it's like you said, it's a time of unity and a time of let's just have some fun and enjoy the beautiful game. So I can understand where you're coming from. Now let's talk about Haiti. What's your opinion on Haiti?
I mean, if to talk about 80 again, I got to go beyond just the football. I mean, ever since the revolution in the early 1700s to the late 1700s to early 1800s, 80's just been fighting for their right to exist, and live the way they want to as a free people. The rest of the world decided that they do not have that right and keep doing everything in their power just to have them bow and accept that fate, and they've not, and they keep fighting. I mean, when you think about even just the controversy surrounding their jersey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And FIFA at the very last minute saying, hey, you can't wear that jersey.
yeah.
When you think about what they've gone through, having to play their own qualifying games far away from home, all the way in Curacao, everything that they've been through as a people, for centuries now, is just against the world. But they are such a resolute people.
Yes,
I tip my hat for them. I hold them dear to my heart, and I wish them every success. It was really good to see them back on the stage after so
yes,
long. I think they equipped themselves really, really well. They came up against some quality teams in Brazil and Morocco, and it was really, really difficult for them to, have gotten out of that group. But I give them a lot of credit for what they've been through as a people, as a football team, to have graced the stage in the way that they did and held their heads really
yes.
high. So I tip
I,
my hat to
I
them.
I agree. I was proud of them, and I don't think they have anything to be ashamed of for sure. So yeah, I appreciate your comment about Haiti. Now let's talk about DR Congo's fashion statement. I mean, they came in looking like kings, right? I mean, what's your opinion about their fashion statement?
Well, first I'll agree that they are kings, and
Yes,
credit to them,
yes,
but when you think about it, DR Congo, I mean, credit to them for the way they work. They got past Cameroon, they got past Nigeria,
yes,
and they knocked Jamaica out, at the final step in the Intercontinental Playoff. Now we expected Jamaica to be the fashionistas of the World Cup, right? With
yeah,
their, Bob Marley theme designed
yeah,
jerseys, right? I mean, there's still some World Cups going around now with the Jamaican theme in it, right?
yeah,
Fully expecting Jamaica to be there. So I think it's really fitting that the team that stopped Jamaica going and literally took their spot, has been the fashionistas of the World Cup
yes.
so far. So yeah, credit to Congo, and I say I love it. More of it.
Oh my gosh. I watched something on YouTube where they interviewed the designer,
Yeah,
and he talked about what influenced him, how he came up with that design, and it just meant he wanted to make a bold statement, which I do believe he succeeded.
right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even the bags that they were carrying, with the print and everything. I mean, oh my gosh.
Royalty,
Yeah.
royalty,
I
royalty. That's
mean,
right.
I looked at that video and I was like, wow. I mean, look at these kings. That's the
Yes,
first thing that came to mind. Oh my
definitely. We
goodness.
we have to start seeing ourselves that way, portraying ourselves that way, and not let people tell we who we are and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to dress.
Yeah,
Right.
and
This
and
is who
that's
we are,
what the
and
designer
this is
was going for.
that's
So
right.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, you think about a lot of teams, they wear the suits, typical suits or the blazers. And I was like, man, they made that look so blasé. Like, come on. It's like this was a fashion statement.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm wondering for the next World Cup, what team will try to, you know,
Hey,
to beat
that's how
that.
trends are born.
Right. Right.
That's how trends are born.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, great job, and you know, I have to give them kudos for that statement. So now, let me ask you before we start discussing the round of 32, do you have any honorable mentions for the first round?
Again, I have to go back to Cape Verde. You know,
Okay.
they again, like I said, they reached the last round of the round of 32 without defeat against Spain, right? Who, though they've won it one time, it's been one of the best teams in the world for well over a decade now, right?
Yes.
Uruguay, who won the World Cup twice in the early days, albeit, but still a very formidable team, and a Saudi Arabia team who's been doing really, really well. So to reach the last 32 on your first visit to the World Cup as such a small nation, they deserve some um, honorable mention there. I would
Yes.
also give South Africa an honorable mention here, and the reason being the way they turned things around after such an horrible start against Mexico. Getting two red cards as well. I think the way they overcame all of those obstacles to turn things around and reach the last 32 stage was deserve enough an honorable mention. Also, I will say I'll give a honorable mention to Iran as well.
Okay.
Because Iran, despite everything that they've gone through, right, being told that they cannot even stay in the country, they have to travel to a different country to play here just hours before their games. As soon as their
Yeah.
games are done, they have to, be back on a plane, out of here, no time for recovery. Don't even have their full support staff with them. I mean, and just barely missing out on the last 32 by a last minute header in the 96th minute from
Yeah.
Australia last night. I mean, that to me deserves honorable mention as well.
Okay, good, good. Now, are you expecting any surprises in the round of 32?
Not really. And I say why, because outside of Argentina, really, Argentina versus Cape Verde and your England
Okay.
versus DR Congo, and maybe the USA as the host versus a Bosnia and Herzegovina team, all the games are relatively evenly poised. So
Okay.
for me, and surprises would come from one of those games. You know, I think the Netherlands versus Morocco game that is about to serve up, a really nice game of football. That is one that
Yeah.
we probably all expected or wish we would have seen later on in the tournament. It's going to be sad that one of those teams
Yeah, one
left
has to go.
home early, But except for those two games, maybe Argentina versus Cape Verde or
Okay.
England versus Congo. I don't think anything else for me would be classified as an upset because the teams, like I said, are evenly poised, evenly matched for me.
Okay. Okay. Which teams do you expect to stand out?
Um, well, I do hope my Brazilian team can grow from strength to strength. They're playing against a very good Japan team, so
Yeah.
and my art is with the African nations, right? That
Yes.
comes naturally. But I do expect France, as I said, Spain and Argentina, who they are the strongest teams in
Okay.
terms of quality and depth, right? So I do expect those teams to stand out, and all the evidence so far has pointed to the fact that these guys mean business. They are in at the races, so I do expect those teams to stand out.
Do you expect any dragons to be slayed?
Wow. Expecting, no, I do not expect
Okay.
it. Open, so yes. I mean, because my wish for the African teams to progress means, I'm open to see, the mighty Argentina even to fall to, Cape Verde, even your
Yeah.
England with our four gunners in
Yeah.
there, for a dragon slaying to take place. One of those two teams would have to lose to those teams because, as I said, everybody else seems fairly matched. So for
Yes.
a dragon slaying to take place, in my opinion, it would require some Herculean effort from a Cape Verde or a DR Congo. For me, nothing else would be classified as a dragon slaying event. At this
Okay.
stage. Yep.
Okay. And now at this point of the World Cup, who are you predicting to win? You gave us a prediction the last time. Are you sticking with that?
You know what? My heart is still open. Brazil will come
Yeah.
good. I just always have that open hope that Brazil will come good. And look, I'll be over the moon. I'll be ecstatic if an African team could pull it off, right? We were down to 9, now 8, so there's still some hope there. But in all honesty, if I'm to be honest and speak with my, football in brain, my football in acumen, I will still hold France to be the eventual victors. I mean, for me, they have the best squad, the deepest squad, and they seem to be gelling at the right moment. So, I mean, Dembele now coming and scored a hat trick in their last game.
Yeah.
He's not scored in the tournament yet, and he just lit it up with a hat trick. And that's pretty much their. I wouldn't say their second string team, but a lot. They're using their team a lot. So
Okay.
I still expect them to go on and win it.
Okay.
So
And
I'm keeping.
I've heard quite a few people say that, that
Yeah,
they believe it will be France.
yeah.
Now, what do you think about the hydration breaks?
You know what? I'm just gonna say the way I see it. I think we were just all bamboozled into FIFA and the U.S. Soccer Federation sleekly turning the game into 4 quarters. That's the way I think it was. Just to so that advertisers could have more advertising time. On such a stage like this. I would have personally just rather than be open and honest and say, hey guys, listen, we've expanded the tournament, which meant we got more sponsorship dollars in, which means we have more people at the table who want a bang for their sponsorship buck. So we are going to have to figure out a way to bring these people some revenue in exchange for what they've given to us. So we're going to dice the game up, and we're going to put 3 minutes aside during each half to show some commercials. Just tell us the truth, the way it is. Because look, when we're playing in closed stadiums that are climate control with air conditioning, when we're playing, right, we saw England play um, the other day in the rain. It was storming.
Right.
You need an hydration break there, right? When you're in an air conditioned city, why do you need a hydration break, right? I can understand if there is, some form of parameters set in place to say, hey, listen, if the field level temperature gets to a certain level, right, we are going to break so that people could hydrate themselves and not risk
Yes.
injury, right? Um, or harm. I can understand that and do it on a case by case basis based on these parameters. So everybody knows right off the bat, if the temperature goes to here, we're getting a break. Otherwise, we're playing through, right? So to, you know, push this in there and tell us it's one thing when clearly it is something else. You know, it didn't land well with me, and I don't think it landed well with a lot of the players or the coaches either.
I tell you, the
Even the fans.
commentators, I've heard some of the commentators say that they believe that it does affect the momentum of the game. I mean, what do you think?
Oh, it certainly does. We could see that in so many games where, I mean, coaches use this time to rearrange their teams and change their tactics, and you've seen the results straight afterwards. There's a lot of games that have seen teams either get on the score sheet right after a break or make some adjustments to nullify a threat that the other team carried. It is pretty much, like I said, a quarter, like just like in basketball, where coaches get to pull their teams aside and tweak their tactical approaches to the game. It is a fact. It has happened on numerous occasions. It slows momentum too, right? One team is on top, and all of a sudden, uh, we got to stop for 3 minutes. Breaks that momentum. So, I don't think it landed really well. And who knows? Just maybe powerful forces are at work, so it just might be here to stay.
I do think that, a lot of these changes, it just comes down to money. And I think that we have to be careful because what will be the next change? Because at the end of the day, if it's about money, the game will lose something. I just don't personally, I like things the way they were. So I was curious about your opinion because I'm sure this is not I mean, it's hot this time of year, but is this the first time that the players have played in excessive heat? So,
Listen,
like,
we
yeah,
played the World Cup in Qatar, you
yeah,
know, and in Qatar, even at the time the
And
World
it's
Cup.
really hot there, right?
So I mean, like you said, the World Cup has been playing since 1930.
Yeah.
But I want to be totally honest and not just speak, because changes is constant, right? And some changes are good. The last time we were on, we discussed the changes to the game from the time when guys like Pele and Maradona and those guys played the
Yes.
sport, right? In terms of even just the field, the equipment, the technology that's in the game. So I'm not saying every change is bad. um, and you are absolutely right. It is all about money. It is all about money, right? This expanded World Cup is all about money. The next one is going to be even more expanded because we're celebrating 100 years of the World Cup now in 2030, right? So it's even going to be a bigger spectacle, right? More people are going to be pumping money into that, and those people are going to want to return on their investment. So FIFA is going to have to figure some way out how to get these people return on their investment. So I mean, these things aren't just going to go over real quick. The more people pump money into the tournament, when we think about even the Premier League, like we both watch the Premier League and are very avid supporters of our Arsenal team. A lot of times you've seen teams coming back from Champions League game on a Thursday night and they have to play Saturday morning at 7:30 our time, 12:30 UK time, right? And you're wondering what's the logic behind this. Well, the logic behind
Yes.
it is that TV dictates that, right? Right, you take the TV money and the TV people tell you when you should appear on their TV, and that's it, right? The money talks. So it's a difference in terms of these people aren't just taking time to show commercial, but they're telling you when you should play, despite what your body feels, from the exertion of your last game, despite
Yes.
what your body feels based on your injury record or whatnot, despite what the coaches would like, in terms of proper rest for their team. The TV gives you the money. The TV tells you when you're going to play, right? It's the same thing now with this hydration break. Like, I'm giving you a lot of money so you could get more teams in and give teams more money, right, for participating. I need my commercials shown because I need to recoup some of those monies that I give you. Not even just recoup it, but make money on top of it. So, you're right in the sense that it is a money talks game. And this hydration break is simply about rewarding those people who put the money in to get even more money back out.
I think that's a shame, honestly. Honestly, I think, and I mean, what do you think as far as like when they want to implement these changes? Do you think that the coaches should be able to vote on this? The players, the owners, should they have a say so in these decisions?
Should they? Absolutely. Unfortunately, we live in a world where, I mean, majority of
Money
voices don't
talks.
matter. The voice that matters are the people at the table who need to make sure that when they put something in, they get even more out. So, I mean,
Yes.
the voice of reason just goes out the window because, the coaches, the players, they just want to play. They want to play in the spirit of the game. They want to play with their advantage if they have an advantage, right? They train to be able to look at England team. The England team came over here. They based in Miami, right? So they could get acclimatized to this weather. Like, what's the point if I'm going to only play for 22 and a half minutes and then I get to rest for three
Yeah.
minutes and I hydrate myself and go again for 22 and a half minutes, right? Then I don't need to spend all that money and, set up all this extra stuff to get acclimatized to something that's not going to bother me, right? So, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, it's a it's a farce. It's a farce. It's a farce.
Yeah, I guess I've been listening to the commentators and I'm like, this is different, not used to this.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Now, do you expect the round of 32 to be exciting?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, knockout football is always exciting. It's either exciting or it becomes nail biting as
Yeah.
penalties come into play. At the end because there's got to be a winner. And this is what it is about. I mean, in the initial stages, everybody's a little bit more tempered.
Yes.
Cagey, just wanted to make sure they don't lose the first game, so forth and so on. But this stage, it's full blazing, because you
Yes.
win or you go home. So everybody's pulling out the stops to make sure that, they are the team that progresses. It's always exciting, and if it doesn't get exciting because people are too cagey, we are going to go to a nail biting penalty shootout in the end. So,
Wait, with this game that that we were watching before we went live, I
yes,
just knew that they were about to go into overtime because you saw that I texted you. It's like,
yes.
hey, we can win it until this game is over,
Yeah.
But then, hey, then Canada scored. So, yeah, that was actually exciting.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it was headed for overtime, and to this point, because you could tell from watching the game, South Africa
Yeah.
was playing for that, right? They felt
Yes.
like they had a better chance the longer the game went on, so they were
Yes.
being very cagey, right? While Canada were pressing, Canada were being more on the front foot, playing more. So I think deservedly they got what they deserve. They were the team that were pressing the issue more.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Um, Let me see. What does the World Cup trophy mean to the winner beyond bragging rights?
Well, I mean, this particular World Cup, as we were talking about, it means a lot more money, right? Because there's a lot more money
Yes.
uh, at stake for not just the winner, but all the participating teams, which is a good thing. It means recognition for the country as a football powerhouse. Now you've won the World Cup. The players, their ratings and earning potential rises. It means a focus on grassroots developments and the more involvement in the sports, especially if it's a non-traditional footballing country. You know,
Right.
um, it is the pinnacle of sporting achievement. I mean, given that the World Cup is the single most um, grand sporting spectacle on this planet, I mean, winning that is just the pinnacle of sporting achievement. I mean, there's the economic inflow from all the attention that's now focused on this country, who wins the World Cup. Like I said, especially if it's a non-traditional, if it's not the regular Brazils or Italy or Germany, people who wins it all the time and have all the facilities in place already. I mean, you know. You can imagine a country winning this for the first time, and not even just winning it. If we look back to even 1994, when the World Cup was first hosted here in this
Yeah.
in the US of A, right? Look what has happened to the sport in this country since that, right? We've seen the birth of the MLS, right? We've seen the
Yes.
growth of the MLS. We've seen the changes of the MLS, to be fair, right? Because if you remember initially when it came out, it seemed different from the regular football. All right, it wasn't on the same calendar as every other football.
Yeah.
There, shootout thing where the game had to end it with a victor, that type of stuff. And you've seen the changes, right? Because there's more interest in the sport now. It's becoming something that people are paying attention to, which is one of the reasons why I think it's going to be good again that this country's hosting this World Cup, because now it's on people's mind, it's in front of people's eyes, it's everywhere you go, which is probably one of the good things about the commercials that are being shown. So you would expect it to grow in this country, which is good for this region, including our Jamaican brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters that we just spoke about, right? They
Yeah.
will have more opportunities to play, in a more competitive league, probably a better paying league than it currently is right now for our brothers and sisters, right? So yeah, I do expect that even if this country doesn't win the World Cup, but that it is being played here and so much attention is being focused on it, that there will be growth and development, in the game itself and economically as a whole for those countries involved and who eventually ends up winning it.
Now, can the World Cup prolong a player's career? Can it make or break a player's career?
Well, we've seen that with Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, just to name a few right now, right? We've seen that with Craig Gordon of Scotland at 43 years old, right? We've seen that with even the Cape Verde goalkeeper at 40 years old, right? I mean, this is their first time in the World Cup, probably. He would have hung his boots up if they hadn't made it to the World Cup. So in terms
Yeah.
of prolonging their career, definitely, right? These guys would not be so intent on playing on if it wasn't, an event like the World Cup they were going to be playing at, right? I was up in Jacksonville last night watching the game with, a gentleman who's a Liverpool supporter, and he was bemoaning the fact that he felt like a lot of his team weren't playing to their potential because they were trying to preserve their fitness for the World Cup, right? They didn't want to get injured and risk missing the World Cup, right? He was
Yeah.
bemoaning the fact that the one player that he felt was their better player in Ugo Ekitike, right, is the one that actually ended up being injured and missing the World Cup, while the others who, in his estimation, right, shunned putting their best foot forward, right, we're all okay to go and play in the World Cup. So yeah, people do, and I can't confirm or deny that that is the case, right? I wouldn't put it beyond people's thought process to say this is the event that I want to play at, so I'm not going to risk putting myself in a position to be injured and miss the tournament. So yeah, in that regard, it can also affect your career, right? Your team could be relegated. Your team could miss out on
Yes.
something. So yeah, it does in many ways make or break your career. If you like, we talk about Boadi, right, the Moroccan player, if I'm saying his name correctly, right, who right now is just the toast of the town, right? I mean, Nico Paz has been a buzz, and we saw him last night playing against Jordan, and he was electric. Just
Yeah.
for those few moments. So yeah, it can be a spark, and it can also dim a previously shining light.
Yeah. So for a young player, I guess the World Cup exposure can do a lot for, give them a boost in their career as far as their career goes.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Being able to put on your resume that you played in the World Cup. I mean, that in itself is a massive boost in
Yes.
itself. Not many people get to achieve that. I mean, like a lot of players, and let's be honest, right? I see it being more of a thing when it is, our African brothers and sisters who happen to be born in another country where their parents might have been residing at the time of their birth, talked about in quote unquote disparaging way of like, oh, these guys weren't even born in the country. Like it happens all over the world. It has been happening
Yes.
all over the world, right? Jorginho played for Italy, right? He was born in Brazil, right? This has been happening all over this country of
Yes.
USA, right? We have so many players who play for this country who were born. Sergio Dest right now was born
Hmm.
outside of the country. There's a lot of players who were born outside of these, but they play for the country because they are citizens of the country, right? There's, I mean, I always talk about myself, right? None of my kids were born in Jamaica, right?
Right.
Are you telling me that they are not Jamaican and they don't have the right to represent Jamaica if they so choose to represent Jamaica?
Right. Right.
Because they need nothing more than their birth certificates to go to the passport and immigration services and get their passport as a Jamaican citizen,
Yes.
right? They're not circumventing a system to play for these countries. So when people like the same Boadi we were talking about, or Ashraf Hakimi, right, or Zidane, right, the father Zidane, Zinedine, he played for France. Now here's his son playing for Algeria. You have the
Yeah.
Doe brothers. One is playing for France. One is playing for the Ivory Coast. Right? We've seen this a lot, all the time. I mean, they make a big thing about the Curacao team, right? That it's only the one player, Taya Chong, who was born in Curacao. All the other
Hmm.
players, well, I mean, they are by citizenship and entitlement, right? Curaçaoans, if that's how you
Yeah.
say it, right? But they're playing for the country because they are eligible to play for the country, right? But when it happens with France, where Mbappe from Cameroon and all these other players
Yeah.
from all over the African continent, nobody says anything about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing there because one, it's either the country of their birth or the country of their birthright, right, where their parents and or grandparents were born. It's not their fault that they were born somewhere else.
And just the opportunity, I'm sure they just want the opportunity to play. So if it ends up that way, then that's just the way it is. I mean, I've seen a lot of that at the Olympics too, where people are running, for other countries and all of that. So yeah, it makes
I mean,
perfect sense.
personally, though, since I don't equate the two, I don't equate the
Hmm.
two because, I mean, for example, when we even think of our own Merlin Nati, who went up and took up citizenship in Bahrain, right, just because she wanted to
Yeah.
grow career, right? Like, I mean, you have no ties to Bahrain, like that. I don't necessarily agree
But
personally.
but, but
Um,
to prolong, I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, but
right.
do you think sometimes they're thinking about, you know what? Okay, my country's finished with me, but this will give me a last payday. That sort of thing. I
Oh,
mean, what do you think?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes more than not that drives the discussion, the decision making process, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're selfish beings. At the end of the day, we have to look out for ourselves. Right. At the end of the day, and if you have a talent and an ability that will bring your economic upliftment, and it's not being entertained in one arena, and you feel that you can survive, thrive in
Yeah.
another arena, that's your
Yeah.
prerogative. You know,
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like if you are a citizen of the country, you have a right to play for the country, regardless
Yes.
of where you were born, right?
No, I agree. I definitely agree with you on that one.
And to your point, let's be honest about it. Like a lot of these kids who were born, let's take it back to our Jamaican brothers and sisters and our Asian brothers and sisters, or right, our African brothers and sisters at Cape Verde, very small island right off the west coast of Africa.
Yes.
Even if they were born in Portugal or France or England, the USA, Canada, right, their chances of playing for those teams, right, is much narrower simply because of the population size of those countries, right? You would think that they are much more quality players they're competing against, right? Now, their country, birthright country, right, it's a smaller sample size, right? And if they have the quality to play, the desire to play, and the nation's football authorities say, hey, yeah, we would love for you to play. Who's anybody else to deny them that right?
I agree. I agree.
That's the
I,
way I look at it.
I no, I definitely agree with you on that because, think about it like it's this country, you think about Jamaica, where there may be a lot of like Jamaica track and field. There's so much talent. And, I remember one guy saying that he went to England because his mom was born there. He ended up making their track team, and that had been his first time going to England. But I'm
Right.
like, you know what? He wasn't able to run for Jamaica, but he still wanted to be an Olympian. So if that
Right.
gives him the chance, right? I
And
mean,
vice
I
versa.
guess
I remember Sean Bryn, right, coming from Britain to come
yeah,
and swim for Jamaica, right? Because he
yeah,
couldn't make the British swimming team, right? And he
right,
had Jamaican heritage.
right.
Right? So, I mean, it's person's prerogative, right? In our day to day job, right? If you're not making headway in your job and you know you had the potential to make the headway, and somebody else offer you the potential to, achieve your goals and your aspirations,
Yeah.
going to sit there and say, yeah, you know what? Nah, I'm good. I'm okay. You are going to go. And these are people's professions we're talking about. So
Yeah, I
if they're,
mean,
they're
I definitely agree with you on that one. I definitely agree. There's a guy that used to run, I think it was the 400-meter hurdles from the Dominican Republic, and he was born in the U.S., but he chose to run for the Dominican Republic. That's where his parents are from. But he
Mhm.
said because his medal was like he knew they would get the one gold medal,
Right.
and he knew that the U.S. would have an abundance of gold medals. So he felt like he just felt a sense of loyalty to the Dominican Republic and to honor his parents. He chose to run under that flag. And I said, you know what? I get where he's coming from. So in some, I guess a case by case thing, but no, I get it. But now for someone like you said, a country where they have no ties, and it comes down to that. Because I remember when Merlene Utzi went for I forgot the name of the country.
Marine.
Yeah.
Marine.
And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, wow, but I get it. She wanted to prolong her career.
And, it's her right to do so. It's her choice.
Yeah, no,
So, you know,
I
do we,
definitely get that.
do we agree with it? I mean, the Olympic Committee, have that loophole. And if it's there, I mean, she didn't do anything illegal,
Right, right, right. And I guess you know what? Sometimes, Richie, I guess when you have a love for your sport, you
yes,
want to do it as long as you can, even though your body's giving out on you, but you still want to hang in there. So
that's right.
I can definitely understand. Now, I'd like to talk about who do you think will make it to the round of 16? So take your time and go game by game.
I think Canada will beat South Africa for the round of 16. That's a cheat one, right? We got that one.
You're right.
Like to see that one happen, right? Even though, if I'm to be honest, if you had asked me this before the game was played, I would still expect Canada to win again because they're playing on home soil, and again, South Africa stumbled out of the blocks and did well to straighten up. I gave them an honorable mention earlier on in the program, but I
Yes.
would still expect Canada to prevail.
Okay.
With everything else that they've got going on. So Um, with that said, I expect France to prevail over Sweden in their matchup.
Okay.
Right, for everything else that I've said about France, on this particular program and the one we had before, given their strength and depth, um, you know, Morocco, I expect to prevail over Holland. That's one of the closest games I believe we'll see in the
Yeah.
round of 32. But again, I want the African teams to go all the way, and Morocco does
Mhm.
have the quality actually to
Yes, they do.
compete against this Netherlands team. So, and I am picking Portugal to prevail over an aging Croatian team. Croatia's done really, really well, not just in this World Cup, but in previous editions as well. Get into the final, get into the semifinals. But they're an Asian team, and while there is an aged Cristiano Ronaldo on Portugal, I mean I think they have a very good team. They have great players. A lot of their players, have played in the Champions League. 4 or 5 of their players played in the Champions League final for PSG, and they're very motivated.
Okay.
I just think Croatia might not have the legs to, keep up with Portugal, but who knows? That's Croatia we're talking about. They are they are a very astute preposition. I think Spain will just be way too much for Austria. Spain
Okay.
is clicking on all cylinders, and I think they'll be too much for Austria. And I think USA will ride the home wave over Bosnia and Herzegovina. They are a team that's not to be underestimated, but if USA could even rediscover anything to that first half against Paraguay, they're going to not only win this game, but cause probably run deep into this tournament.
Okay.
Um, I do believe that while I hope that Senegal will prevail over Belgium, I do believe Belgium will have too much for them.
Okay.
Belgium has been playing a lot more consistent than Senegal. Senegal has
Okay.
shown flashes here or there. If I'm to be honest, they've disappointed a little bit. I expected a little bit more from them. Um, Brazil over Japan, definitely. I'm picking that one. Right,
Okay.
that's going to be a cage game. Um, and I'm also backing Ivory Coast over Odegaard's Norway. Sorry, captain, but yeah, I'm going with
Okay.
Ivory Coast on that one. And I do believe Ivory Coast has the potential. I mean, we talked earlier about Frank Kessié in midfield and Diamandi on one wing, and even the Arsenal old boy Nicolas Pepe. He's rediscovered some form. Like I'm seeing playing, even inside he's playing. Off the main striker at times. He's still having good wing play, and he's been very effective. I think he got 2 goals in the tournament already too. So I'm not
Okay.
just saying that because it's an African team. I really do believe that they have the qualities to prevail over Hurling Haaland and Martin Odegaard. So I'm picking them for that one.
Okay.
Um, I believe Mexico and Ecuador, that would be a very interesting one. But with the home
Yes.
sport, I expect Mexico to prevail there.
Okay.
They're a really solid team. They don't concede goals. you know,
Right.
I think with the home support, Mexico will prevail on that one. And I'm going. I think Rice, Saka, Eze, Madueke, and the rest of their England teammates, your England team. I think it'll be a little bit much for Congo, despite my wish.
Okay.
As will Messi and his Argentina teammate for Cape Verde. You know,
Okay.
I think Egypt should overcome Austria. Despite concerns right now over Mohamed Salah's fitness.
Okay.
Um, and Algeria, they seem to be turning things around, and I'm backing them to overcome a very solid Switzerland team, led by a
Okay.
former, of course, our former Gunners captain Granit Xhaka. And I think Colombia, I think they'll prove a little bit too much for Ghana. The
Okay.
evidence I've seen from both teams. Again, as much as I would love to see the African teams progress, Ghana really hasn't shown me enough to say that they can beat this Colombian team. I mean, they were very dogged against England. Very
Okay.
solid, and compact in defense. But going forward, they haven't given me enough enthusiasm to think that they will beat this Colombian team. I haven't
Okay.
seen enough from Semenyo, who's a brilliant player, but he just hasn't shown up at this World Cup yet.
Okay.
Um, Sadly enough, Thomas Partey, who everybody's on his back for one. I mean, we know why, but I mean, for me, it's just so unfair. Like, I mean, there are people who've been convicted of crimes, who get such a free pass all around this world, and this guy
Yes.
merely been accused of a crime, not even at his day yet in court, and this world is chastising this guy as if he's already a convicted criminal. But for me, he's been one of their standout players.
Okay.
He's very solid in midfield, breaking up attacks and progressing the balls through the lines. He's very solid. And this Ghana team, they have a lot. They just haven't come to the party with it yet. Pardon the pun, their party and party. But um, for me, Colombia with Luis Diaz, Ames Rodriguez pulling the strings still. I mean, Rodrigo Muniz, he came off the bench last night, and the right back that replaced him, I think Arias, his name was tremendous. They ran Portugal, rugged,
Yeah.
and that's the way they play. They play this high tempo transitional football, and it's beautiful to watch. I don't think Ghana will be able to cope with that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those are my picks for the round of 32.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. How important is it to play as a team instead of going for individual glory?
Uh, you know, I think it's a team sport. It definitely is a team sport. But there are individuals who make up this team, and some of us, we are very egotistical, and we can see that it impacts the way teams play. All right, let's talk about Portugal and Argentina, who have two of the most recognizable stars in the game today.
Yes.
Right. Clearly, when we watch these games, we could see that these teams play to put these two players in the spotlight. Right. And they love that. They gobble that up. And fortunately for us and soccer football lovers around the world, they're great players, right? Competent players. I mean, they're a little bit past their best in terms of their speed and their
Yeah.
ability to playing in high press moments, right? They don't contribute much to that side of the game, but in terms of their individual quality on the ball, in certain areas of the field, they can be dangerous, and we've seen that. I mean,
Yes.
Messi was on the pitch for a very brief period last night, and still managed to extend his scoring record, right? Albeit we could say the goalkeeper was not really very strong in that instance,
Yes.
right? And even the free kick prior to that, he really didn't cover himself in glory. But these are two great players. But we can see where that individual accolade, that individual desire trumps the team performance, right? And I'm saying that to say, sometimes the best action for the team in certain moments is disrupted for the desire to put that individual in the spotlight, right?
Does that affect the team morale? Would you think that it would?
It could certainly. However, I'm not in the dressing room to say, but it doesn't seem to me that these players mind, especially just speaking about Portugal and Argentina, because
Okay.
you can see the adulation that they give to these players, right? You could see Messi, like Rodriguez
Yes.
Paul seems to be his twin, like they don't even leave each other, right? Everything he does, that guy's right there beside him, like he's not even letting the breeze blow on him, right? Whenever he has a positive action or score a goal, you see the way the whole team coalesce around him and lift him up, right? Even in Ronaldo's case, right? If it comes off for him, it's the same thing, right? The team loves him, they lift him up. If it doesn't come off, they defend him to the moon and back, including his coach. So, um, from what's outward facing, what's in the public, it seems that they are really behind their superstars and they're lifting them up and trying to give them the glory. That's what we see.
Yes.
How do the players feel in reality behind the scenes and in the dressing room? We'll never know. We'll
Yeah,
never know.
that's true.
Maybe
That's true.
sometime down the line, somebody comes out and say something. But for now, it looks like, especially just on those two teams, speaking of, it doesn't seem to be changing much for the rest of the guys. And England is the same thing with Harry Kane. I mean,
Yeah.
they play for Harry Kane the same way. So I mean, England has, more in terms of, you have Jude Bellingham who's coming through and doing his thing. There's expectations for Saka to do his thing. Morgan Rogers, these guys. There are other people who they're expecting to be prominent, around Harry Kane. And not to say that England and Argentina and Portugal aren't capable of that, but they seem to just channel everything through Messi and Ronaldo.
How important is the role of a captain to the team?
Well, especially with the change of the rules now surrounding this year World Cup, where only the captain could speak to the referee, it's super important, right? Even just on that aspect alone. But you often think of the captain as the coach's coach during the game, right? He's the one that brings the message from the coach to the team, right? So outside of his official and admin duties in relation to the media and to the referee, he's the one that keeps the team together, right? Keeps the team lifted and motivated in certain difficult moments, and certainly, as I said, the coach's coach on the field, right? He's that leader that brings across the message and helps the team to play in the way that the coach has instructed them to play. So the role of the captain is extremely important. It's more than just wearing the armband and walking out at the front of the queue for the games. It's really important.
And what are the qualities that would make a really good captain?
There are, some core qualities that you're looking for. One, you want it to be one of your better players for a number of reasons, because you want the other players to look up to that person as well. Um, you know, uh, Not only one of your better players, but also one of the players that understands the game really, really well. So, as I talked about, that person being the coach's coach on the field, that person have to be able to analyze the game in real time, right? And seeing where things are working, where things aren't working, especially in relation to how the coach sets them up and wants them to play. So that person has to be able to analyze that, decipher that. Is it working? Is it not working? What do we need to tweak? What are the other team doing to negate what we're trying to do? What
Yes.
difference are they bringing than we planned and prepared for? So that person has to be astute in those areas, and as well, like I said, a good player where the players are looking up to them, and also, as those leadership qualities where they can pick the team up in difficult moments. It's not a person who's going to run away from the responsibility when the going gets tough. It's a person who's going to wear that with a badge of honor and say, okay, it's tough. Now we need to pull our socks up and keep going. So those are general qualities. I'm sure different people look at it different ways. Some people might want somebody who's more vociferous and rough. While some people, might be okay with somebody mild mannered as long as they could get the message through. So I think certain qualities are definitely required, but there's also that flexibility depending on who's picking the captain and what their specific requirements they're looking forward to are.
And what can a good captain do to motivate or uplift the team that's not having a good game?
Well, the first thing that good captain can do is lead by example,
Yeah.
right? So, not say, hey guys, go and do this, but hey guys, come on, let us go and do this. And so think of a Martin Odegaard, for example, right? Literally, he leads the Arsenal press, right? He's the one, even though he's not playing as that main striker, but he's the one who's first running to closing down, opponents in different areas of the field that they want to trap opponents in, right? So when I say lead by example, when the game gets tough, I'm not just telling you, hey, you need to run harder. Hey, you need to be more precise with your passing. Hey, you need to win your 1v1 battles. Yes, you're doing that. You're saying that to your teammates, but you are doing it first, right? So you're doing it first so that ignites that fire in the rest of your teammates to also come along with you, and let's do it together.
Yes. Yes, I definitely agree with you on that. And I tell you, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to you coming back for the next round. Do you have any closing thoughts?
First of all, I am looking forward to coming back to the next round, and I thoroughly enjoy this as well. Listen, when it comes on to football, you know, I'll sit here all day, all night.
You and I both.
Um, but as I mull over your question, do I have any closing thoughts? And I think about even the question you asked me earlier about what's not going wrong, what's not going right so far, and the disappointing moments so far. I think we talk about even not being able to sit at the table when the decisions are being made to change the game, right? The coaches, the players, and even if they're there, their words might not carry the weight that we would like for it to carry as the people who are actually playing the
Yes.
game, teaching people to play the game, and managing people as they're playing the game. But I think we as football fans the world around, and football players and football coaches and just general football lovers, take a step back just to appreciate what we've got in front of us, right? Because if we get caught up in all the things that are going on, the politics surrounding it, look, sadly, our voices get drowned out easily,
Yeah.
because people with a vested interest, can drown our voices out easily, right? They control what people get to see and hear, right? And they get to define you in the public certain ways, right? But when we see a Lionel Messi, for example, and I know some Ronaldo fans probably won't like to hear this, but I'm not a Ronaldo fan, nor am I a Lionel Messi fan. I'm just a football fan. And I'm seeing
Yes.
two great players on display, right? Kylian Mbappe, no less, right? Vinicius Jr., Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, right? We're seeing football greatness at its highest,
Yes.
right? And this is a sport that's meant to unite us every 4 years and bring
I
everybody
agree.
together, right? And despite our best efforts, right, those of us who have the ability to make certain decisions in certain areas to make everything flow smoothly, we'll probably never see everything flowing smoothly, right?
It's
For
true.
one reason or another. But what we're seeing, I mean, back in the day, we could talk about Pele or Garrincha or Beckenbauer, a few players we could talk about, right? Over the decades and decades and decades. Now we get to sit here and talk about so many great players that we're
Yeah.
watching all playing together on the same stage and
Yeah.
playing some breathtaking stuff. I want to embrace that, immerse
Yeah.
myself in that. And I would encourage all football loving fans to do likewise. Forget the
Yeah.
stuff that takes away from us just being joyful in what we're seeing in front of us. It doesn't have to be this versus that, even though we're playing a game with two people playing against each other and one wants to win.
Yeah.
We just acknowledge the beauty that we're seeing on display, right? It's
I agree.
mastery at its best.
I
you know,
agree.
And yeah, I would just say to all football loving fans, just enjoy this
I
because it's
mean,
beautiful. Yeah.
it's beautiful. I mean, I look forward to this every 4 years, and I have to ask you this. I'm one of the fans that I've been let down by England every 4 years. I shed my tears, and but I noticed that something that we fans tend to do, and I'm not saying all fans, but I would say there's a lot of fans that then we start to badmouth the guys after, okay, they're out of it. You could have done this and you should have done that. We're not the ones out there on the pitch, and it's like, could we have done any better? At the end of the day, I think we should still be very supportive to our teams. I mean, what's your take on that?
Listen, I 100% agree with you. We said in the first show that there's 48 teams in this World Cup, and only one's going to go home a winner. So there's going to be 47 countries, right? Not
Yes.
the ones who didn't make it to the World Cup, who are going to be mourning, right? So the players who are out there, they're giving their very best. They want it probably more than us as fans because everything
True.
else we talked about earlier, their individual stocks rise, right? They get that star on their shirt. They get to put that in their resume. They get a pay rise. They get status. They get adulation. They lift it up. They want it probably more than you and I as fans,
It's
right?
true.
And they're giving their best. They've prepared really hard, right? When I listen to your England coach talks, right? I mean, I think he's like so good at explaining himself. I don't even think he needs to, but he explains his decisions, right? And they make
Yes.
sense, even if you're not a football connoisseur, right? If you just listen to what he says he does and why he does what he does with certain players in certain eras, in certain phases of the game, he's spot on, right?
Yes.
But I feel, and it's difficult because we're fans and we are so emotionally attached.
Yes.
But yeah, if we could take a step back, and I know it's difficult to do, and just really enjoy what's on display, right? Just the moment, like even that Portugal Colombia game I was watching. I mean, even though we got a goal, eventually, like I was so impressed with that game, even without the goal.
Yeah.
Right, I was just watching a beautiful game of football. Right, and I don't have an affinity for Portugal or Colombia one way or another in terms of football, but I love football, and I'm watching a beautiful
Yes.
football. I can imagine the Colombian fans and the Portugal fans feel differently emotionally towards the game. But
Yes.
to the point, if we can try to divorce it a little bit, maybe we'll enjoy it
Yeah.
even more. You
It's
know,
it's it's true. It's true because I think, for the players, when they lose, they know, okay, I'm about to take a beat down from the fans. I
yeah,
know they'll be going on social media to badmouth me, and I know that can't be very pleasant for the players. I have to ask you this before, we go off the air. Do you think the women are like the women who will be playing in the Women's World Cup? How do you think they're feeling right now? Do you think they can't wait for their time to come?
I am sure. And one of the things I know is like, I mean, the Women's World Cup following the last World Cup, right? It
Yes.
was like amazing.
Amazing. Yes,
So
it
I can't
was.
wait to see the Women World Cup following this World Cup next year, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you get to see the U.S. women versus the Brazilian women a couple of weeks ago in Brazil. They played two
No, I
games again.
didn't see that.
And that last game, wow, if that's anything to go by, there was fire, right, on both sides. I think there was something like maybe 7 or 8 red cards, including officials on the bench.
Yeah.
That's how, and I'm not saying it to say I'm glorifying red card or anything, but I'm just talking about, the heart that people comes with to this
Yeah.
game, right?
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
much into it they are. And seeing everything that's going on with the men's game now, all the adulation, all the attention that's being paid to it, the money that's involved. Um, you know, I'm just hoping that it rolls right over into the Women's World Cup and we get to see some exciting, breathtaking football with as much excitement and compensation for the women.
Yes.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with you on that. I tell you, I've enjoyed this conversation, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation coming up about the round of 16.
definitely. I'm here, and thank you, your viewers, and everybody else who will watch this podcast. I truly appreciate being here.
Thank you. And for those who are, if you have a question or comment, if you're watching the replay, please post your questions and I'll pass them on to the Emperor. Take care, everyone. God bless. And thank you for watching.